When Isabella mentioned divorce to me for the third time because of her first love, I agreed. But she hesitated. Have you thought it through? This isn't a joke. She furrowed her brow and confirmed with me again. Looking at that familiar face, I smiled with relief. I've thought it through. Let's get a divorce. Isabella stared at the name I had signed for a long time. Have you thought it through? Her voice was a bit dull, and there were complex emotions in her eyes. This isn't a joke. Don't go back on your word after signing. I don't have time to play house with you. She always wore a sullen expression. It seemed that ever since we got married, she rarely smiled when she was with me. Well, it made sense. I used to pester her and didn't want to get a divorce. She probably hated me too much to show me a pleasant face. I calmly took off the ring on my ring finger, placed it on the coffee table, and smiled at her. I've thought it through. Let's get a divorce. Upon hearing this reply, Isabella frowned even more tightly. James, I'm asking you one more time. Have you really thought this through? Her expression was cold. I knew that she was just repeating the question to warn me not to go back on my word halfway. After all, according to her first love, they would fly abroad to settle down after we got divorced. But seeing her so insistent, I actually felt relieved. Because, in the past, no matter what, I wouldn't have let go, but now, I could let go. Isabella. I held Isabella's hand and called her name for the last time. Her eyes flickered slightly. Since you can't let go. She stopped halfway through her words when she saw me take off her wedding ring for her. Isabella choked. I let out a sigh of relief and threw the pair of wedding rings into the trash can. 3 years ago, filled with enthusiasm, I personally put the ring on Isabella. 3 years later, I took it off for her with my own hands. From then on, this relationship came to a complete end. It's over between us. I said. When I married Isabella, I didn't know about the existence of William. I thought that our encounter, getting to know each other, and holding hands were all due to fate. But it wasn't until William appeared after we got married that I realized it was the biggest joke. I often heard Isabella talk about you. She said we look alike. Now that I finally managed to come back from abroad, I thought I had to meet you no matter what. William greeted me as if we were old friends. Hello, my name is William. I'm Isabella's friend. Thank you for taking care of her all these years. I stood there stunned. I let him say these words that seemed to be declaring his sovereignty. I didn't even notice that he had squeezed my hand red. Isabella warmly greeted William, opened the high-quality tea that was supposed to be a return gift for my father, and brewed a cup for William. When William took the cup, he casually touched Isabella's hand. Even though Isabella quickly pulled her hand back, I still saw this scene. It's been several years, and I didn't expect you to still remember which tea I like. You said this tea was very fragrant when we went traveling together before. I've always remembered it. They talked about their past back and forth. A past that belonged only to them without my presence. I stood at the door, feeling out of place with them. I suddenly realized that my marriage was in crisis. That night, I had my first quarrel with Isabella. Isabella didn't understand my unease. She defined all of this as my being unreasonable. I became even angrier and grabbed her wrist, asking her, "You and William were childhood sweethearts and each other's first loves. You kissed, dated, and even swore to get married in a country where divorce isn't allowed. Why didn't you tell me this? Why did you hide it from me? Isabella, what on earth am I to you?" Isabella shook off my hand in annoyance. She didn't even bother to give me an explanation. Instead, with an indifferent attitude, she perfunctorily said to me, "James, if I was going to have something with William, I would have already. Can you stop being so sensitive?" In fact, I should have expected that my marriage with Isabella wouldn't last long. But I always thought that I could delay it for one more day. I loved her, really loved her, to the point of being obsessed. If I lost her, I didn't know what kind of state of depravity I would fall into. However, as it turned out, I was overthinking it. Was it because my love wasn't deep enough? Or was it that I could finally rationally analyze that she wasn't worth my lingering attachment? Anyway, if I had understood the principle that a short-term pain was better than a long-term one, I would never have dragged it out until now. Isabella's face didn't look good. Maybe she felt that it hurt her pride that I was the one to propose the end of our relationship. But, whatever the reason was, it didn't matter anymore. Just call me in advance to tell me when you want to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau, and I'll free up my time. Leaving these words behind, I walked away. Unexpectedly, Isabella actually chased after me and blocked my way. "James, what kind of trick are you playing on me this time?" You see, even at the end, she was still afraid that I had ulterior motives for agreeing to the divorce. But what other thoughts could I have? I just wanted to let her go. And also let myself go. I sighed and shook off Isabella's hand. Don't worry, this time I'm serious. After the divorce, I won't pester you and William anymore. Of course, if you choose to settle down abroad, I'm not going to be so stupid as to chase you all the way there just because of this entanglement. Settle down? What settle down? Isabella looked confused. I didn't know if it was because she was so excited that I agreed to the divorce that she actually forgot about this. But I didn't feel like explaining either. Isabella, go back. I motioned to her, I'm going back too. Isabella looked at me with red eyes. Why did you suddenly agree this time? She asked. I'm tired. I said indifferently. Just because of a meal? A meal? I was surprised that she still remembered. If it wasn't for that meal, Isabella wouldn't have mentioned divorce several times. But clearly, I was the victim. I got up early and went to the vegetable market to buy groceries, thinking about having a candlelit dinner. On our wedding anniversary, a romantic day, I wanted to put the gold necklace I bought on her as a gift with my own hands. What was my fault? For this moment, I was busy running around, full of anticipation. In the end, all I got was her saying, William has a fever. I'm going to accompany him to the hospital for an drip. I won't be back tonight. All my efforts were in vain. Looking at the table full of dishes, I just couldn't figure out what I was inferior to William. My phone screen lit up. It was a message from a friend. Happy anniversary. I know you're having a candlelit dinner and may not see this message, but I still want to wish you well. Alas, you're happy again. This message, paired with my lonely self, was simply ironic. The next day, Isabella came back. She looked at the table full of dishes, was stunned for a moment, and then scolded, Didn't I tell you not to wait for me? You made so many dishes, and no one ate them. It's all wasted. I was full of anger, and it finally erupted at that moment. We had a really big fight, and I even used swear words for the first time in our marital quarrel. Isabella was very angry and directly slapped me. It's just a meal. Is it really necessary? I don't know what there is to be angry about. There should be a limit to your jealousy. I didn't want to listen to her anymore. I said, Don't you just want to rekindle your old relationship with William? What are you pretending for? James, what the hell are you doing? Isabella shouted at me. Both of us fell silent. I closed my mouth and planned to have a good talk with Isabella to solve this matter after regaining my composure. However, at that moment, she suddenly said, Yes, I do want to rekindle my old relationship with William. Are you satisfied? William is better looking than you, richer than you, more cultured than you, more magnanimous than you, and I've only ever loved him. Are you happy now? Only someone familiar with you knows where to stab to hurt the most. I felt as if I was on an execution platform, and Isabella's words were cutting into my flesh and blood time and time again. This kind of life is really meaningless. Isabella was tired from scolding. She said in a hoarse voice and looked at me indifferently. We can even quarrel like this because of a meal. I'm really exhausted. Let's just get a divorce. In the end, she still shifted all the blame to that meal. But she didn't understand that it wasn't because of that meal at all. Since then, Isabella handed me the divorce agreement twice in a row. Each time she gave me the agreement, she would remind me in a mocking tone, James, it's all your fault that we've come to this. We're not suitable to be together. Maybe it was a mistake from the very beginning. If I had known earlier that you were the kind of person who would make a big fuss because of a meal, I would never have married you. It seemed that everything originated from that meal. And now, Isabella brought up this matter again. Just because of a meal? Seeing that I didn't reply, she asked again. As if she wouldn't give up until she got to the bottom of it. But so what? Even if I poured out all the reasons, she wouldn't listen. She has never had me in her heart. For us, whether it was because of that meal no longer really mattered. But perhaps, when parting, one always has to find some excuse to shift the blame onto the other person. Yeah, just because of a meal. I followed her lead and replied with a smile. Isabella stood there in a daze. I didn't know what she wanted to say to me. I only knew that her lips opened and closed slightly, yet she still remained silent. We stared at each other for a long time. Only then did Isabella speak. You stay. The house is originally yours. She started packing her luggage. I'll move in with William. We'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. Hearing her say this, I actually felt relieved. I had originally thought that when she mentioned William in front of me again, I might still not be able to help feeling jealous and heartbroken. But fortunately, I felt nothing. Okay. What time tomorrow? I asked her. Isabella's hand that was packing the luggage suddenly stopped. She was stunned for a few seconds and then threw the suitcase to the ground as if venting her anger. She looked at me. It was like an accusation. And also like a reproach. There were many emotions mixed in her eyes, wrapped under a thin layer of frost. I couldn't see clearly. 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, she replied to me, but her eyes didn't move away from me for a single moment. At 8 o'clock, the Civil Affairs Bureau just opens. How eager she was to get a divorce from me. I smiled bitterly in my heart. It wasn't because of reluctance, but because it wasn't worth it. I felt that my past efforts were not worth it. And I also felt that the 3 years of my entanglement and heartache were not worth it. Sure. Then I'll see you at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. I nodded. Do you have anything else to pack? Do you want me to call William and ask him to come pick you up? James. Isabella hesitated. She bit her lip and then continued, actually, the reason we've come to this point is all my fault? I interrupted her and asked back. When she heard what I said, she shook her head in surprise. No, I wanted to say. You said it 3 years ago. I cut her off and said self-deprecatingly, I've never responded. But since we're about to get a divorce, I still want to defend myself a bit. I smiled calmly, as if I was talking about the love affairs of someone who had nothing to do with me. As if I was saying some insignificant jokes. I said lightly, it's not my fault, Isabella. You were the first to let go of my hand. And now, I'm going to let go too. I hope we never see each other again after the divorce. William drove over and picked Isabella up. I was the one who informed him. Even Isabella herself didn't know. Before leaving, she greeted me repeatedly, James, I'm leaving. I won't see you off. Then I'm leaving? Yeah, I'm leave. When she greeted me for the third time, I became a bit impatient. I blocked the doorway, just go. She lowered her head dejectedly. William thoughtfully carried her luggage to the car for her. She looked back at me every few steps. I simply closed the door. The moment I closed the door, I saw Isabella looking back at me with a reluctant expression. And I, turning a blind eye, turned around and walked away. I slept extremely soundly that night. My heart became calm. It was as if a huge stone that had been pressing on me for a long time had finally been removed. I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The next morning, I dressed particularly formally. I was going to attend that long-awaited witness that was 3 years overdue. Isabella walked into the gate of the Civil Affairs Bureau accompanied by William. And I was all alone by my side. However, I didn't feel lonely. Instead, I felt refreshed. I was about to welcome my brand new beginning. There were fewer people handling matters in the morning, and Isabella and I quickly went through the procedures. When we were about to part, we walked out of the gate one after another. Isabella remained silent. William was by her side, showing concern, but she just ignored him. I was going to find a random place nearby to have something to eat, but I saw a woman walking straight towards me. She had a good figure and smiled at me. My mind went blank for a moment, and a familiar figure emerged from the depths of my memory. She walked up to me, took off her sunglasses, glanced at Isabella behind me with a sneer, and then said to me, I didn't make it to your wedding, but I didn't expect to catch up with your divorce. James, happy divorce. Let me treat you to a meal. Daphne's arrival was beyond my expectations. Counting the time, we hadn't seen each other for a long time. The last time we met should have been on my wedding day. I still remember that the night before my wedding, Julian called me and said that Daphne was drunk at the hot pot restaurant we used to go to. I asked her why she drank so much. Julian sighed and handed the phone to Daphne, saying that she should explain it to me herself. Daphne took the phone and laughed drunkenly. James, happy wedding. I asked her, why did you drink so much? Can you get up in time to be a bridesmaid tomorrow? There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. Daphne mumbled a few times and said, You're getting married, I'm happy. I'm drinking, I'm happy. Can't I be happy? Daphne's voice sounded strange. I didn't know if she had a cold, but her voice was a bit dull. I sighed, no matter how happy you are, you can't drink like this. It's bad for your stomach. Seeing you happy, I'm happy. I wanted to persuade her some more, but unexpectedly, Julian's voice came from the other end of the phone, saying that Daphne had fallen asleep. He told me not to worry and that he had already contacted Daphne's brother. The next day, Daphne showed up at my wedding as if nothing had happened. She was radiant and had a bright smile, as if the drunk Daphne from the previous night was just an illusory dream. Daphne warmly entertained the guests who came to the wedding and took care of everything for me. She did a perfect job throughout the whole process. Even Isabella couldn't help but sigh. Why is Daphne so attentive? It's like she's the one getting married. Julian beside her just shook his head meaningfully. She must be attentive. But being attentive doesn't mean being happy. I didn't understand the hidden meaning of Julian's words. Just as I was about to ask, Daphne ran over and changed the subject. She talked to me about the matters at the wedding one moment and then comforted me not to be nervous the next. She looked at me and wished me a lifetime of happiness in the most sincere tone. After the wedding, before I could even take off my wedding attire, Daphne rushed off to a foreign country without delay. According to her brother's explanation, she planned to go abroad for further studies. I called Daphne, but she didn't answer. I guessed that she didn't see it, so I sent a message. Why are you leaving in such a hurry? I was thinking that the few of us could have a good get-together. It wasn't until the evening that she replied to me, we can get together some other time. As time passed, Daphne has been staying abroad and didn't come back. Julian was busy with work and dealing with his family's urging for a second child. As for me, needless to say, I was physically and mentally exhausted from the torment of my relationship. The promise we made back then has been 3 years overdue and still hasn't been fulfilled. When we met again, I actually felt a bit dazed. What's wrong? We haven't seen each other for only 3 years. You didn't forget me, did you? Daphne poked my chest with her index finger and pretended to be angry. It's not nice of you to be like this. Only then did I come to my senses. When did you come back? Why didn't you let me know in advance? I could have gone to the airport to pick you up with Julian. Daphne seemed quite satisfied with my reply and even joked, if you don't mind the trouble, I'll take a taxi to the airport right now, and you can pick me up again. I was amused by her. By the way, why are you here? I asked. I should have only told Julian about the divorce. I said it was a coincidence. We're just destined to meet. Daphne casually flicked her hair, we have a connection. Isabella looked at Daphne warily. Although she didn't say anything, I clearly saw the hostility in her eyes. William's phone rang, and he went not far away to answer it. Isabella, on the other hand, stared straight at us. How long are you planning to stay in the country this time? I asked Daphne, let's call Julian out and have a good get-together. You don't need to tell me. I've already made arrangements. Daphne pulled me away from Isabella. I told Julian that we'll go to his place for hot pot tonight. I even specifically asked him to add a clear soup base. But for now, you have to accompany me to have breakfast first. How can you eat with a clear soup base? James doesn't like it at all. Why are you dragging him along? Isabella suddenly interjected. There was a moment of silence all around. Daphne and I both looked at Isabella. Even William, who was answering the phone, heard the commotion and casually glanced in our direction. Isabella felt a bit embarrassed, turned her head, and tried her best to avoid my gaze. Daphne became even more spirited and confronted her head-on. You're really nosy. You're already divorced, and you're still trying to control other people's affairs. Hey, Miss Isabella, what right do you have to do that? Daphne's teasing laughter made Isabella feel deeply insulted. We won't get the divorce certificate until 30 days later. We're not divorced yet, she said through gritted teeth. Isabella had a point. But was there really a difference between now and 30 days later? Clearly, when we had an argument before, she herself had said, do you think you're so great? If it weren't for the complicated divorce procedures, would have already left with William. If we really had to talk about it, she should be more eager than me to get the divorce certificate. Oh, so you mean you don't want to get a divorce? Then you ask the one who's on the phone. Does he agree? Daphne asked again. She stood in front of me and continued, this is so funny. If you don't get a divorce, is it convenient for you to have your cake and eat it too? We're all women. What are you pretending to be affectionate for in front of me? Even a dog would shake its head at this. Daphne's mouth has always been as sharp as a poisoned blade. I used to always remind her that she should pay attention to her words in the future. Not everyone will treat her like a young lady, and she should be careful not to get into trouble with others. But Daphne would pat her chest indifferently and say, I won't attack others unless they attack me. If someone steps on my head, I'll scold them to death. Julian would squint his eyes and laugh. It's really good to be a woman. We men can't be so straightforward. There are so many things to consider. 3 years have passed, and she still hasn't changed this habit. After scolding, Daphne didn't forget to secretly glance at me. She knew I didn't like her behaving like this. But today, for the first time, I somewhat enjoyed it. It seems that people are given all kinds of definitions from the moment they're born. Men should be modest towards women, and men should be magnanimous. I also tried my best to remain rational in this failed marriage. But it was too tiring. All kinds of shackles bound me. I was locked in a cage, sank to the bottom of the sea, and couldn't make a sound. Now, there's someone standing up, helping me vent my anger and seeking justice for me. It's quite nice. William finished his call and walked up to Isabella. Obviously, he had heard the argument between Isabella and Daphne, but he chose to turn a blind eye. He said to Isabella, "Isabella, I still have some things to deal with in the company. I'm in a hurry and can't give you a ride." "What did you say?" Isabella looked at William in disbelief. But William didn't give Isabella time to react. He took off running. "Oh ho, the original partner is getting a divorce from you, and even the other person is running away." Daphne pretended to be surprised and covered her mouth with her hand. "You're so pitiful." Isabella's face turned red with anger. I had never seen her in such an embarrassing situation before. She used to always embarrass me, lose her temper regardless of the occasion, look down on my elders at family gatherings, and list all my faults in front of my friends. I never complained even once. And now, I don't need to do that anymore. "Daphne, don't think I don't know what you're thinking." Isabella's veins bulged, and she said harshly, "Wow, you can read minds? Seeing how defensive you are towards me, then read my mind and tell me what I'm thinking right now. Am I planning to slap you to vent my anger, or am I going to take advantage of the situation and win over your ex-husband?" After saying that, Daphne even leaned provocatively towards me. "You? What about me? Do you think you're in the right just because you had an affair? Do you have the nerve to argue here? You've been given too much face, and you think you're something. I suggest you go home, pour a bucket of oil into the pot, and see if it's the oil that splashes or if you're the one who's being unreasonable." Isabella was really angry. "You're crazy. Isabella, just stick to the argument and don't swear," I reminded her sternly. Isabella looked at me in amazement. She just swore at me. I didn't hear it just now, but I heard it now. Isabella was left speechless. Daphne smiled triumphantly. She leaned on my shoulder and rolled her eyes at Isabella. "You asked for it, didn't you? Serves you right. Anyway, we were tired of arguing. I said I would treat Daphne to a meal and took her away. Before leaving, Daphne turned back and warned, James is an honest person. He thinks it's okay to just endure it, but I'm different. Isabella, you'd better not cause trouble for him in the future. Otherwise, just wait and see." Isabella looked at me reluctantly, seemingly hoping that I would say something in her favor. But I didn't. She stood at the door and watched as our vehicle drove away. She was also alone when she left. Just like when I came. In the evening, Daphne and I went to Julian's house for hot pot as promised. His wife came out and warmly greeted us. Daphne even brought gifts for everyone. Julian picked up the blanched tripe and put it in my bowl, joking with me, "Here, this is your favorite. Don't say I'm stealing it from you this time." Daphne blinked her eyes. "James still prefers light-tasting food now, right?" Julian looked as if he had just heard a joke. "What are you talking about, Daphne? Didn't we often go out for hot pot together before? James even blanches the meat in the clear soup. He gets an upset stomach if he eats too greasy food. Have you forgotten?" Then Isabella seriously said that James doesn't like clear soup, acting as if she knew him so well. Daphne scratched her head. "I thought James's taste had really changed. You have no idea how nervous I was when I argued with Isabella this morning." After Daphne finished speaking, no one responded. Julian coughed twice and motioned for Daphne to shut up. He glanced at me and silently put 2 more pieces of beef in my bowl. I understood Julian's good intentions. Isabella liked spicy food and always disliked my light taste. She disliked it so much that she wouldn't eat and would even throw away the food if it was a bit too light. After getting married, I gave up all my previous preferences and accompanied her to eat spicy food. Perhaps it was because we ate like that for so long that she forgot that I changed my eating habits for her. In fact, I don't like spicy food. I'm even mildly allergic to chili peppers. But she doesn't know any of this. She never cared. After several rounds of drinking, Daphne was already unconscious. Julian and I tried to persuade her to stop drinking, but she just waved her hand and smiled. "I'm happy that you're getting a divorce. I'm drinking because I'm happy. I'm happy to see that you're happy." It was exactly the same as when I got married 3 years ago. I helplessly poured her a glass of cooled boiled water to sober her up. "You were happy when I got married before. Why are you happy now that I'm getting a divorce?" But Daphne didn't say anything, just kept laughing. She was pretending to be happy before, but now she's really happy. At this moment, Julian's wife suddenly said. She gathered the garbage on the table into the trash can and then said, "It seems that you've all eaten about enough. It's getting late. James, you send Daphne home. Julian and I can take care of the cleaning here. Oh, okay. I got up to help Daphne, and Julian came over to help too, but his wife slapped his hand away. James can take care of Daphne. What are you butting in for? Come and help me wash the pot. Julian rubbed his hands. Well, then I'll see them off. His wife pushed Julian towards the kitchen again. Give it a rest. You have no sense of propriety at all. Julian and I looked at each other and both smiled awkwardly. His wife saw me to the door and patted me on the shoulder. Drive slowly and be careful on the road. Okay, thanks. I took Daphne to her home, and it was her eldest brother who came out to pick her up. Seeing Daphne's drunken state, he didn't ask a single word. Instead, he took Daphne and asked me if I wanted to come in and have a seat. I waved my hand to refuse, exchanged a few pleasantries, and then went home. At noon the next day, someone knocked on the door. I opened the door and saw that it was Isabella. What's the matter? I asked. I left some things behind and came back to get them. Help yourself. I stepped aside to make way. She had just taken 2 steps when she suddenly froze. Are you really not going to keep these? Isabella lowered her head, and her fingers, which were tucked by her sides, were so tightly clenched that her fingertips turned white. I followed her gaze. Those were the sundries I had thrown into the trash can. Most of them carried our memories. But now I didn't need them anymore. Yeah, I don't want them. I did some cleaning this morning, and the house is much cleaner now. I said. Isabella turned her back to me, and the line of her shoulders instantly tensed up. She didn't say a word and stood there motionless. After a long while, she slowly squatted down and picked out those sundries from the trash can one by one. There were the bracelets we gave each other when we first started dating, the handmade pottery we made together on a date, the confession greeting card she drew for me on a whim when she was drunk on our wedding night, and the small ornaments I bought according to her preferences. These things that I once cherished like treasures were now worthless. They might not even fetch a few cents if I took them to the junkyard. Thinking about it, it's really ridiculous. I put all my energy into maintaining this relationship, but in the end, it couldn't even compare to the glance they exchanged when they reunited. I was like a gambler who had lost everything. If you don't want them, give them to me. Isabella turned her head, looked at me, and forced a wretched smile. Is that okay? Isabella in this state really couldn't be called beautiful. She could even be said to be a bit disheveled. Perhaps she also felt that her smile was strange, so she didn't bother to force a smile anymore. Instead, she started rummaging through the sundries she had just taken out of the trash can on her own. If you want them, just take them. It saves me the trouble of throwing them away, I said in a flat tone. Isabella looked up, and there seemed to be tears in her eyes. Do you really not want them anymore? She asked me again. What's wrong? Are you going back on your word and don't want them either? Then just leave them here. I'll take them out with the garbage later, I said. No. I want them. I want all of them. Could you help me find a bag so that I can pack them and take them back? There are garbage bags under the coffee table. You can find them yourself, I casually pointed and then went to the kitchen to cook. After a while, when I turned around to bring the dishes, I saw Isabella sitting on the stool, staring blankly at me. She looked as if she had lost her soul. It was so inexplicable. I called her twice, and she came to her senses and smiled apologetically at me. I remember you used to be busy in and out of the kitchen, trying every way to make me happy. Just now, when I saw you cooking in the kitchen, it seemed that we were back to the old days. It was really happy then. Isabella, I interrupted her, you said you came to get the things you left behind. Did you get them? Isabella was stunned for a moment before answering me. Yes, I got them. You don't have anything else left behind, do you? I don't think so. Oh, I washed the bowls and chopsticks, added a bowl of rice, and sat down. So, is there anything else? Isabella paused and suddenly asked me, do you mind if I stay for dinner? I looked at the oyster sauce, lettuce and steamed fish on the table in confusion. These things didn't suit her taste at all. Why did she specifically stay to eat the food she didn't like face to face with someone she didn't like? Sorry, I only cooked enough rice for one person, I said without leaving any room for negotiation. Isabella could tell the meaning of driving her away in my words. Sorry, did I cause you any trouble? Yes. She fell silent. You can leave now, I reminded her. Isabella gave a bitter laugh. Are you in such a hurry to drive me away? I thought for a while and answered her, yes. You really are stingy with your words when it comes to me. It was really strange. I never expected to hear such words from her mouth. It was always me complaining about her in the past. Isabella looked at me with a sense of loss. After studying me carefully for a few seconds, she picked up her bag of trash and turned to leave with a desolate expression. When she reached the door, she suddenly turned back, as if she had made up her mind about something. Actually, the day I gave you the divorce agreement wasn't. She didn't finish her sentence. Daphne arrived. Wasn't what? Daphne walked up to me and asked with great interest. Isabella frowned unhappily. What are you doing here? This is really funny. Daphne gave Isabella a disdainful look. Then what are you doing here? You. It's really like meeting an enemy on a narrow road. The two of them argued back and forth, neither willing to give in. After a long standoff, Isabella was the first to admit defeat. She greeted me and then left. Why are you having dinner so early? Daphne sat on the chair. My brother also said he wanted to invite you to my house for dinner. I smiled. Do you want some more? Sure. Daphne propped up her chin and looked at me with a smile. I haven't tasted your cooking for a long time. I added a bowl of rice and handed it to Daphne. Daphne ate with great relish. You cook so well. Whoever marries you in the future will be really lucky to have such delicious food, she said as she took a mouthful of rice. Daphne has always been generous with her compliments. When I encountered setbacks in the past, she also provided me with emotional support like this. She would repeatedly list my strengths and tell me not to be discouraged. It was really comfortable to be with her. I'm not sure about the future, but now you're the lucky one, I joked with her with a smile. Daphne's eyes narrowed into crescent shapes. I also want to be lucky in the future. How about this? I'll marry you. What do you think? Daphne held her face with both hands and looked up at me. Anyway, you'll have to find someone to remarry. And I'm being pressured by my family to get married. Why don't we just make a pair? Then I can enjoy your delicious cooking every day. Her tone was teasing, just like her usual way of speaking. But when I looked into her eyes, I found that her gaze was as intense as a torch, not like she was joking. I was stunned for a moment. Daphne was the first to look away. She suddenly burst into laughter, but it seemed a bit forced. I'm just kidding. What, did I scare you? When Daphne tells a lie, she will unconsciously bite her lip. These subtle actions can't deceive me. Even though she was trying to cover it up with a forced smile, I already understood what was going on in my heart. Why aren't you saying anything? Did I really scare you? Daphne looked at me worriedly. I'm sorry. I just wanted to play a joke on you. I went too far. Don't be mad at me. Worst case scenario, even if we can't be together, we're still friends, right? I knew very well that when you compromise for someone, it feels extremely uncomfortable in your heart. Daphne kept smiling, but I clearly saw the corners of her eyes that were faintly red. Daphne, stop talking. I wanted to reach out and touch her head to comfort her, but when my hand was in mid-air, I realized it was inappropriate, so I retracted it. Let's talk about the past few years you spent abroad. Let's talk about something that can make you happy. Daphne stared at me for a long time before nodding. Okay. I talked with her for a long time. We talked from the rising sun in the east to the setting sun in the west, from sunflowers to stars, full of enthusiasm and without getting tired. After seeing Daphne off, I sat on the sofa and thought of the words she had said to me during dinner. But I couldn't respond to her. I didn't know what identity I should use to get along with her anymore. Daphne is a really nice girl, but I also couldn't just move on to another relationship right after ending one. I tossed and turned and couldn't fall asleep that night. In the next few days, I didn't know if Daphne also couldn't deal with the delicate relationship between us, but she simply didn't mention that day's incident, and I tacitly cooperated with her. It was as if we had never talked about that topic. We continued to be friends, both understanding the unspoken feelings without crossing that line. Until the 30-day period was over, Isabella and I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the divorce certificate. Don't you have anything you want to say to me? Before stepping through the gate, Isabella asked me. She looked at me full of hope. James, as long as you say. Isabella, I called out to her and didn't let her continue. Let's get the certificate quickly. I'm going to have dinner with Julian and Daphne later, I said. Is it Daphne again? Isabella's emotions became agitated. Yes, I nodded. What, is there a problem? Isabella frowned tightly. Did you get a divorce because of Daphne? I laughed. Have you forgotten? You were the one who brought up the divorce first. That was just a mistake. A mistake? Could there be such a thing as a mistake in a relationship? But I didn't want to delve into this issue for now. Whether it was intentional or not, you brought up the divorce 3 times, and each time it was because of William. I'm tired and bored. I agreed to the divorce, and we both reached an agreement. There's nothing wrong with that. We've come this far. What's the use of saying more? I patted Isabella on the back and urged her, hurry up and go in. I'm in a hurry. James, why do we have to end up like this? What do you mean? We're just one step away from getting the certificate. Are you going to tell me now that you still have feelings for me? I said mockingly. Isabella hesitated for a moment. Finally, she lowered her head and murmured softly, do I still have feelings for you? How is that possible? I knew Isabella's temperament very well. She would never admit her mistakes. Just like now. But that's okay. It saves me the trouble of arguing. Then let's go, I said. It didn't take long, and we finally got the divorce certificate. From then on, Isabella and I had nothing to do with each other anymore. Before leaving, she couldn't help but call out to me, if I hadn't given you that divorce agreement, would you still have brought up the divorce? Yes, I didn't hesitate for a moment. Isabella paused and then asked, then, if I hadn't met William again? In fact, we both knew that the direct reason for our divorce was William's appearance. But we also understood better that even if there wasn't William, there would be someone else. In short, once there is a crack in a relationship, it can never be mended. I didn't answer Isabella's question. It wasn't that I was avoiding it, but I thought it was unnecessary. It was all in vain to say more. After separating from Isabella, I went to the old place to find Julian and Daphne. Unexpectedly, Julian was called to the company to deal with something temporarily, and only Daphne was left. When she saw me coming, she smiled awkwardly, Julian isn't here. If it's convenient for you, we can reschedule the appointment. Daphne became cautious and tentative, completely unlike her usual free-spirited self. I then realized that we simply couldn't pretend that what had happened before hadn't occurred. This forced me to face this issue head-on. It's okay. Have a seat. It's nice just the two of us having a meal. I sat opposite her and wiped the bowls and chopsticks for her. Daphne's expression was a bit unnatural. Daphne, I called her. I want to discuss something with you. Go ahead. I hesitated for a moment, considering how to put it euphemistically. After thinking about it, I said, am I the type of person you like? Pfft. Daphne spat out a mouthful of water. All eyes turned towards us. She blushed and wiped the wet clothes and the table. Are you not fully awake? Why are you asking such a ridiculous question? I scratched my head, sorry, maybe I didn't express it properly. Daphne looked at me skeptically and leaned in to ask, so what exactly do you want to ask? You like me, don't you? Tick, tick. The second hand silently made a full circle. Daphne took out her phone and called Julian. This is terrible. James seems to have burned his brain. What? Julian on the other end of the line was completely confused. I calmly took Daphne's phone. It's nothing. You go ahead with your business. Then I hung up the phone. Daphne had no choice but to look me in the eye. When did you find out? She asked. A while ago, when you joked about marrying me. But I said I was just joking at that time, didn't I? You bite your lip when you lie. Daphne was silent for a couple of seconds. So you're confronting me today. Does that mean we can't even be friends anymore? She lowered her head, and then a bitter smile appeared on her lips. I should have known better than to make that joke. At least we could still be friends. Now, we can't even be friends. She half-jokingly blurted out what was really on her mind. I don't know why, but when I saw her like this, my heart suddenly tightened. I sighed. What are you thinking about? Daphne was taken aback and looked up at me. I did want to confront you, but I never thought about breaking off our friendship. After what happened before, you seem to have been deliberately keeping your distance from me. Our relationship isn't the same as it used to be, and I kind of feel. I paused for a moment, trying to find the most appropriate word to describe it. Kind of lonely. You're not chatting away like you used to, and I'm not used to it. Daphne, you're a really nice girl, but I've just been through a failed relationship. It doesn't matter. Daphne became excited. I'm willing to wait. There seemed to be stars in her eyes. I suddenly wondered when Daphne started liking me. It would have been great if it was before I met Isabella. But I think, even if it starts now, it's not too late. After breaking through that layer of unspoken words, our relationship returned to its previous casual state. A few days later, Isabella suddenly called me and said she was going to fly abroad with William and asked if I could meet her. I refused. Just meet me once, for the last time. No need. Just open the door. I'm at the door. Isabella kept knocking on the door. I got annoyed and had to open the door for her. You're finally willing to see me, she said. You've seen me. Now you can leave. I turned to close the door, but she blocked the doorway. Wait. What on earth do you want? I asked her impatiently. Isabella paused and handed me a cufflink. Keep it as a souvenir. I used to like collecting cufflinks, but Isabella didn't like it. In her eyes, it was a waste of money. Once, a friend brought back a very special cufflink from out of town and gave it to me. I carefully kept it in a box. But unfortunately, that day Isabella went out with William, claiming that they had some business to discuss. As a result, the weather suddenly changed, and she got soaked to the skin. When she got home in a sorry state and saw the cufflink on my table, she became even angrier, blaming me for only paying attention to the cufflink and not noticing the heavy rain or going to pick her up in time. If you care so much about cufflinks, you might as well live with them. What's the point of marrying me? In a fit of anger, she picked up the brocade box and deliberately went downstairs to throw it away. Thinking about it now, I really have mixed feelings. Looking at this cufflink that was exactly the same as the previous one, I smiled wryly. Where did you get this? I asked a friend to bring it. I gave the cufflink back to Isabella. Sorry. I don't like cufflinks anymore. You can keep it for yourself. Isabella had been full of anticipation. When I replied to her, her disappointment was obvious. You don't like it? I can buy you another one. You can choose whatever you like. She seemed a bit anxious. I waved my hand. You don't have to do this. I don't need a souvenir. Isabella stood there in a daze. She looked at me in confusion and muttered to herself, Why? You clearly liked them before. You said it yourself, that was in the past. I don't like them now. She clenched her hands tightly, suppressed the turmoil in her heart, and smiled bitterly. Do you not like cufflinks, or do you not like me? Isabella stared into my eyes. The corners of her eyes were slightly red, and there seemed to be both unwillingness and helplessness in her eyes. Even her usually cold and haughty voice became hoarse at this moment. Both, I replied to her. She didn't give up and asked me again, I'm going abroad with William. Aren't you going to try to stop me? As long as you tell me not to go, I'll stay. Isabella, we've lived together for 3 years. You should know my temperament. She completely broke down, tilted her head, and looked at me in disbelief. She said in a hoarse voice, You. Isabella pounded her chest, unable to say the words that were stuck in her throat. I heard that people lose their voice when they're in the greatest pain. But I just couldn't associate the word pain with Isabella. She leaned against the door frame and kept laughing stupidly. While laughing, she started crying. It took Isabella a long time to recover. Then she covered her chest and said self-deprecatingly, All this time, I thought I loved William. At most, I was just dependent on you. Even when I was with you in the first place, it was because you looked somewhat like William. But it wasn't until after the divorce that I realized that I didn't love William. I love you. I know I'm despicable, but I can't help it. Isabella, you're not being rational right now. There's no need to say any more. I'll call William to come pick you up. You go back with him, I said. I really can't deal with a woman playing the victim. It's simply torture for me. No. Isabella shook off my hand and snatched my phone. James, if I had confessed to you earlier and admitted my mistake earlier, would the result have been different? No. I've already answered you. I couldn't give a false answer. I said to her, Isabella, maybe it's because I've never directly responded to matters related to our relationship, which has led to you still having some misunderstandings. So now I'm telling you, there's no chance for us. I don't love you anymore. The best outcome for us is to forget each other. You go abroad with William to settle down, and I'll start a new life. Do you think I haven't tried to forget you? Isabella suddenly shouted. Her lips were trembling. She spread her hands and shook her head. I can't do it. I also wanted to let each other go. I don't want to think about you day and night, and now I'm running to you like a shrew. But I simply can't do it. I came here to talk things through. I thought, what if you still have a little bit of attachment to me? What if you still love me? James, I've already missed you once, and I don't want to miss you again. At this moment, my phone suddenly rang. Isabella glanced at the caller ID and decisively hung up. Isabella, I held Isabella's hand and called her name for the last time. She was clearly taken aback when she saw Isabella. Then, she came over and naturally took my arm. What are you doing here bothering James again? When Isabella saw how close Daphne and I were, she actually laughed. Are you dating? What's it to you? Daphne said. Isabella gave up and looked at me. Yesterday William wanted to take me abroad, but I refused. I came to see you. I wanted to see you, and now I've seen you. But, it might as well have been that I didn't. Her tone was unexpectedly calm, as if she was recounting a trivial matter that had nothing to do with her. However, her eyes couldn't deceive her. Isabella turned around unsteadily and pressed the elevator button. I caused all of this. It's my fault. I deserve it. The elevator ascended to the floor. Isabella stepped into the elevator, stubbornly wiped away her tears, waved at me, and forced a smile. James, I'm leaving. She had greeted me in the same way when William picked her up and she moved out that day. But this time it was different. I could tell. She was really leaving. The knot in my heart was finally untied. I hugged Daphne tightly. She was confused and patted my back. What's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? I shook my head and smiled, saying, Daphne, thank you. The sky was clear and the air was fresh. The sunlight shone in obliquely through the glass, stretching our shadows. I hope that in the days to come, we can keep walking on like this, living a plain and peaceful life.